We live. Good. All right. Shalom, Israel. This is the I.S.U.P.K under commanding General Yohanna. As you know, in the UK at this time is the Monday history class. So we're going to get into the history in a moment. But before we get into the history, just a few announcements. Pay your tithes. Your tithes are 10% of anything you earn. A common example, as always, if you earn £100, £10 would be 10%. And that will go to the priests and the prophets of the Lord, man, to help feed the homeless, to help wake the dead, to help do anything that we got to do in this work of the Lord, man. Then, you know, on April the 20th is Passover, man, and you don't want to miss that. If you're Black, Hispanic, Native Indian, that's a holiday you got to be at, man. That's in the law. You know, if you know that you're an Israelite, then surely you know about the Passover. Surely you know about God killing the Egyptians, drowning them in the Red Sea for the nation of Israel. And that's a holiday. That's a feast you gotta be at, man. And now in the UK, we have classes 3 times a week. So on the Monday at 7 o'clock, today, of course, is the history class done by Officer Karathia, you know, powerful in the history, goes into the laws of England, the history on the royal family, the history on Rastafarianism. Wherever you want to go, you don't mean historically, he takes it there. Then on a Wednesday, you got the law class, which is done by Officer Dumgabar. You don't want to miss that. Officer Dumgabar goes into all the laws, how we should love each other, not celebrate the so-called holy days of this world, and many other good subjects too. Then the Thursday, that's done by Captain Mashat Mayum. That's the scripture breakdown class, you know, where Captain Mashat goes into English history and shows in the Bible about the 10 horns in Daniel's. He goes into events that are going on now and relates it to the Bible. So that's the powerful scripture breakdown class, and you don't want to miss that. Then in the UK on a Saturday at 10 o'clock, we have the Sabbath class where we read out of the law. So we read out of the law in the Hebrew, then we translate it in the English. So in the UK, that's the schedule that we have. Then in America, from Tuesday through till Friday at 12 a.m., we have classes also as well. You know what I mean? So you got the Brotherhood class, the Wednesday law class, Thursday scripture breakdown class. Then the Friday class is the language class. You know what I mean? It's called the Lashawan Kodash, where every Black man, every Hispanic man, every Native Indian man, he gets to learn his native language. He gets to learn the language he used to speak before he learned Spanish, before he learned English, before he learned French, man. So with that, that's all the announcements. So the history class today is the history of Arab slavery in Africa. Yeah, please, yeah. The Black Court. So now the reason for this class is a lot of people that follow Islam, if you mention Arabs enslaved Black people, what happens? They look at you like you're dumb. They look at you like you don't know what you're talking about. And the reason they don't know is because they ain't taught. What happens is they're taught about Christianity, you know what I mean, the transatlantic slave trade. But a lot of them that read the Quran, a lot of them that follow Islam, they're not taught about their hand in slavery as well. They're not taught about the trans-Saharan slave trade. They're not taught about what people that followed Islam did to Black people as well. So when you mention them, they're like, what are you talking about? Arabs did not enslave nobody, and they will laugh at you. But it's not because you don't know what you're talking about. It's because they're not taught in it, and it's not an accident. They're taught that for a reason, to get Black people out of the Bible. And in the Quran, they're taught, look, they enslaved your people. They don't have the way. And they're not taught that they did the same thing for a longer time as well. You know what I mean? So we're going to get into that. If you could, on the Wikipedia, type in the Arab slave trade. So you can bring this to someone that follows Islam. You can bring this to even Black people that they follow Islam too. And what did they say? You're lying. There was a video. I'm unable to get it, but when Captain Mashak came over, we went to a place in Hyde Park. It's called the Sabika's Corner, where you are allowed to talk about your religious ideologies. You're allowed to basically have the freedom of speech, which you wouldn't have in the rest of England. So you're allowed to literally say whatever you want, racist, whatever. It's a place where you have the freedom of speech right there. And while in the discourse, Captain Mashak Mayam had, the Arab goes, "That's a lie. Muslims do not enslave no one. They do not." And in my mind, I was thinking, what are you talking about? Like, you surely don't know history. But then come to find out, the more you say it, everyone says it. Why? Because they're not taught that people that follow Islam enslave Africans and Israelites as well. They didn't just enslave Israelites. They also enslaved Hamites in Africa. But they're not taught about none of it. None of them don't think, well, hang on, Africa's so big. Why do they follow Islam the way they do? None of them don't think like that. And the reason is they're not taught that way. They're taught that it was spread nice. We taught them about Muhammadan. They just couldn't resist, man. We taught them about Muhammadan, the peace of Allah, and they just joined. And that is not the case. And we got the history books right here as well. It is called a history class. And we got the history right here too. So get it for me, the Arab slave trade, just the first part.
The Arab slave trade was the intersection of slavery and trade in the Arab world, mainly in Western Asia, Northern Africa, East Africa, and Europe.
So now the Arabs, as I said, they didn't just enslave Israelites. They didn't just enslave Israelites. So they went to the East Africa, North Africa, Western Asia. So even people of like Iranian descent, that's why they follow Islam too. Why? Because they enslaved them too, and they made them submit to that religion. So how can someone say Arabs never enslaved no one when all over that hemisphere people follow Islam? If you go to Nigeria today, that what's that group? But Ako Haram, the Hausa tribe, they follow Islam. And why are they following Islam? Because they enslaved them. They made them follow it or die. And we're going to get into all of that in as we get on through the class. Read on.
This barter occurred chiefly between the medieval era and the earlier 20th century.
And that's a long time, man. While they like to point the finger at Christians from the medieval era to the 20th century, you know what I mean? The 1900s. 20th century is 1900s. And we're going to get in some of these history books that it never ended till 1960. So meaning people that was born in the 60s, people that came in the Windrush time in Africa and the Arabian, those regions there, they were still enslaving black people, you know what I mean? Or people of or Hamites, or people of a dark skin, even in the 1960s. Read on.
The trade, this barter occurred chiefly between the medieval era and the 20th century. The trade was conducted through slave markets.
Through what?
Slave markets.
So Arabs did have slaves. Arabs did have slaves. So anyone that tells you that's a lie, they did not follow Islam, then what history are you reading? Or what history are you purposely trying to ignore? How about that question? Just read on them.
In these areas, with the slaves captured mostly from Africa's interior.
So Africa's interior, meaning the Congos, West Africa, the parts that it's hard to reach in Africa. It's not just as easy as you get from one city to another. Africa has a lot of rainforest, a lot of bush. So to get from one place to another, it's a long way. And they will go into the interior of Africa, meaning all the bushes, all the valleys, all the hills, to go and get black slaves, man. You know what I mean? They went that far to go and get slaves that they can sell them and be rich. Well, yeah, we're good on that. Let's get Isaiah 58:1. Your Bible. Yeah, I got it.
58:1.
Yeah, Isaiah 58:1.
Isaiah 58:1. Cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice.
My bad. Isaiah 5:1.
Yeah. Isaiah 5:1. I am come into my garden. Isaiah 5:1. Now I sing to my well-beloved, a song of my well-beloved.
So now this is the Lord talking about the nation of Israel. We are the beloved of the Most High. Beloved means people that you've always loved before, and love means I've always loved these people. And that's you, black man. You're that beloved of the Most High. And the Most High is talking about his beloved. He's talking about you, the people of the Lord, man. Read on.
As touching his vineyard.
As touching his vineyard. We are the vineyard of the Lord. We are the people of the Lord. We are the people that the Lord planted so that we can be righteous, man. We're that vineyard. But read on.
God, my well-beloved have a vineyard in a very fruitful hill. And he fenced it and gathered out the stones thereof. So now the Lord, he protected us, gathered out the stones thereof, made sure that the nation of Israel was looked after. You know, and you read Exodus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, said, I'm going to bring it into land. I'm going to subdue all your enemies. So the Lord cast out the stones, made sure that our nation, we was fine. Read on. And planted it with a choice vine, and built a tower in the midst of it, and also made a wine press therein. And he looked that it should bring forth grapes, and it brought forth wild grapes. And that's the problem. The Lord gave us our land, and he's like, you know what? Now that I've helped them, they're going to do what I say. And we became wild grapes. We became disobedient. We became wild. And that's what the Lord's saying. Look, like I looked after them. I cast out the stones in the garden that they should, you know what I mean, do what I want them to do. And they became wild, man. Worshipping other gods, doing what they wanted to do. But skip to the 13th verse. Verse 13. Therefore, my people are gone into captivity. So because we became wild, the Lord made sure that our enemies had us. We became captured by every nation. We have been enslaved by every nation. Why? Because we became wild. We became disobedient and would not serve the Lord. Everything's what? I got you. You know, sweet. Let's see. We'll wait for that. You know, sweet. No, don't worry. All right. Yes, read that part again in verse 13. Verse 13. Therefore, my people are gone into captivity because they have no knowledge. And that's the problem. You mean we have no knowledge at all? No knowledge, man. You got black people following Islam, and they're quick to go, look, man, white man, he whipped our backs, taught us we was nothing. And Arabs did the same thing with the Quran. That's the problem. Mentally, we are enslaved because we have no knowledge. We're enslaved before everything because we are wild, man. As it said in the Bible, you know what I mean? We became wild and the Lord allowed it to happen. And then the knowledge that we profess we have, we don't have, man. You always got people talking about, you know what I mean? I'm clever. I read history. But then you're following Islam, not knowing that they enslaved you just like Europeans. They raped black women just like Europeans. And yet you don't know this. There's a reason why you don't know this, because you sheikh and your imam, they don't want you to know it. God forbid you find out that they're just as responsible as the white man. You might throw that Quran down. You might leave your mosque that you go to every week, and they don't want that. So what do? Point the finger at white people when they had a part to play too, man. Read on. And the honorable men are famished. And the honorable men, they're famished, meaning they're dry, they're a desert, man. The water represents the knowledge of God. You know what I mean? There's of course there's other verses to back that up. But honorable men, they're famished, meaning they got no knowledge. Your honorable black sheikhs, your black imams,
They'll talk about you because the white man enslaved us, and don't know that Arabs did it too. Don't know that. Don't know that. You know what I mean? Those same sheikhs that you look up to, they know about they enslaved your people, raped women, did the exact same thing. They have no knowledge and they're famished, man. All those black sheikhs that like to talk Arabic and you mean? Is it me? The light just talk Arabic out of the blue. You're talking to them. No, brother. What you're doing is mutubena, which means you are avoiding the subject. Like, I didn't ask you that. I'm talking to you like, why are you talking Arabic like it means something? Like, it don't mean nothing to me. You talking Arabic like you just talking English. It's just a language. But in his eyes, you know what I mean? He's achieving something. No, brother, you're doing Abdullahi. And that means you're, you know what I mean, not speaking the truth. You know, like, I didn't ask you what Abdullahi even means. You know what I mean? I'm asking you a question. And that's the problem. They're famished. Although they use big words and talk about Muhammad, they are famished. They got no knowledge, man. But read on.
And their multitude dried up with thirst.
And their multitude dried up with thirst. Meaning the multitude of people that they lead, do you know what I mean? They don't have no knowledge neither. Why? Because you're following the man that's dry. And if you're listening to him, you're going to end up just as dry as him, man. You're going to end up with no water in your vessel, just like him. And that's what happens. He's got no knowledge. You got none as well, man. No knowledge too. He don't have the facts. You ain't got the facts. He ain't got, you know what I mean? He ain't got no wisdom. You got no wisdom. And that's what the Bible's saying. So now we got the wisdom. Now anyone saying Arabs did not enslave Israelites and that, you know what I mean? Those Arabs that did, they did not follow the Islamic faith. That's a lie. Remember, this is a history class right here. So this is a book called The Legacy of Arab Islam in Africa. Now, if you notice, why did it say Arab Islam? Because the Arabians brought Islam into Africa. And those same Arabians enslaved Israelites and Africans in Africa. This is a book by John Alem-Billah Azuma. You know what I mean? So this is a book right here, man. Now, we're going to get into this book. We're going to get into various parts. It's a good book. In your own time, buy it. It's cheap, about £15. And you know what I mean? It talks about what Arabs done to Israelites and also Africans. Now, of course, this author, he just thinks all black people are all the same. So you know what I mean? So you're not going to find Israelites in this book. You know what I mean? It does talk about slavery in the West Coast of Africa, etc. But now we're going to start off at page 11 and 12. I've highlighted it, so don't have to. So page 11 and 12, then 14 and 15. But yeah, 11 and 12. That's okay. Yeah, it's a book you can read in your own time, but yeah, let's grab that.
The legacy of Arab Islam in Africa, page 11. The views of Muslims and non-Muslims who change the truth of jihadists.
Who done what?
Change the truth of jihadists.
So that means a lot of the imams and sheikhs, they lie. So if you know it is the truth and you switch it, meaning you acknowledge that they did enslave lots of Africans, Israelites, and they were jihadists. A jihad means you make someone follow Islam by force. You're like, you know what? They're not following that. We're going to make them. And of course, in Africa, there was people that followed wood, stones, people that done all kind of things. So Asian Africans, they put jihad on them. They made war with them, man. And he's saying a lot of them lie about this. They tried to, you know what I mean? They tried to change what the jihadists did. They don't admit that, yeah. In Africa, the reason why people follow Islam so much, because we did jihad on them. We made them follow Islam. They say, you know, we went over there and we preached Islam and they heard it. They had to say, we preach Islam and then they heard it. And that's not the truth, man. You waged war on them. You was jihadists on them, but they deny that. Read on.
And suffered the pain of the sword.
And they did what?
Suffered the pain of the sword.
So all those Africans, they, what happened?
Suffered the pain of the sword.
All those Israelites in West Africa, what happened?
Suffered the pain of the sword.
And we suffered the pain of the sword. And you do know that many people that follow Islam don't know that. When you talk about, well, okay, then in Africa, why is Islam like the #1 religion there? They go because they heard what Muhammad had to say, man. They read the surah and the hadiths. That's not true. Africans and Israelites, we suffered the pain of the sword, man. It was follow Islam or die, and they enslaved them. You want to know a fact? Even Africans and Israelites that even joined Islam, they still was enslaved. You followed the religion and you still was enslaved. But let's read on.
Are simply ignored.
And they're ignored. So that's why whenever you talk to someone who follows Islam and go, listen, Islam enslaved us, just like the white man, lies, lies, and they get all emotional on you. Why? Because they ignore it. They ignore what Arab Islam done to Africa. They ignore the Arab Islam in the slave trade. They ignore their role. Read on.
The sword of truth.
The sword of truth. Read on.
History in the preface of the second edition of his book acknowledges, if not apologizes for giving a one-sided Muslim view of the events in his book.
There, so now, a lot of the scholars they give a one-sided event in their book, meaning they will ignore the bad that Arabs did under Islam. They talk about, look, in Africa, everyone follows Islam. Everyone's in peace. But that's a lie. Even in Africa today, there's many wars and there's many different sects of them too. But a lot of their sheikhs, they give a one-sided view. They ignore the bad parts, what that religion has done, and the Arabs. But they'll just give you all of the good. Read on.
Khan, history admits that in the histories of the jihad movement hitherto written, the non-Muslim pagan point of view has been left largely untold. Oh, so now let's talk about that. So in Africa, the people that did not follow the Islamic faith, their view is untold. What does that mean? Their view when their women was raped, they was forced to walk across the Sahara, and if they couldn't make it, they would just get shot in the head. Their view is untold, man. Them being sold in Mecca, their view is untold. You mean no one will talk about what happened to them? They just give you a one-sided view on Islam in Africa. You know, they heard about Muhammad, they joined Islam, and that's a lie. You get taught a one-sided view. That's why many black people that follow Islam don't know about these things, because their sheikhs and their imams, they give them a one-sided view. To get you out of the Bible, they talk about, look, they enslaved you, man. Gave you white Jesus. And that's a one-sided view. Not knowing that in Africa, when you was there, they did the same thing. They taught you it's Muhammad or die. They taught you you're nothing, man. You mean you're black, which is in that same book, and we're going to get there later on. But read on. The brutality and intolerance of all jihad of the sword, and especially that of the 19th century Western Sudan, has been veiled by an assumption. By an assumption of moral righteousness.
Of moral righteousness, meaning they know it's bad, but they don't want to talk about it. So because they want to feel righteous, Arab historians try to ignore that history, and it goes that, you know what I mean? Those jihadists, they didn't tolerate nothing, man. I mean, if you didn't follow Islam, you had to die, or face the sword, or just work for them for nothing. You know what I mean? They didn't tolerate nothing. It was Islam or die. You couldn't have your Asian African gods just to say, you know what I mean? You follow Islam or you died. And they ignored that for their righteousness. They ignore that so that they can go, look, man, Islam's the way of peace, brother. Muhammad, peace be upon him, which I'm not ever saying that, you know what I mean? But, you know what I mean? They ignore that so that they can feel righteous inside. Like, Islam is a great religion. Islam is spread by peace, but no, it's not, man. Wherever Islam's been, they have enslaved everyone. You go to Iran, they follow Islam, and those Arabs enslaved them too, man. You go to the Ottoman Empire, which was like Ukraine, Uzbekistan, you know what I mean? Them regions, they follow Islam. That famous fighter that beat that Irish guy, Conor McGregor, he follows Islam, and he lives in South Usher. Why does he follow Islam? Because Arabs enslaved even that region too, man. South Russia, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan. He's not following Islam because he heard the message of Muhammad. He's following that because Arabs enslaved his people too, man. Under Islam. You know, what's the name? Khabib Nomi Gomedov. Long name. But listen, his family follows Islam. And why? Because they went through the same thing to some degree that Africans went through too, man. But read on.
Khan, that leaves no place for an approach from the point of view of the victims.
So now this Arab historian, he's been honest. Whenever we talk about Islam in Africa, we don't talk about the victims. We used to be talking about because this sheikh, he went to what's some famous empires. He was a sheikh in the Songhai Empire and he converted them. Meanwhile, no one talks about the victims in that empire. They don't talk about the people that did not want to follow Islam. Their point of view is never ever written down. Let's read on.
The stark intransigence of the stance has not diminished over generations.
So it has not diminished, meaning over time, no Arab historian has been honest enough to go, you know what? We need to tell their point now. You know what I mean? What happened to them? None of them never do it. No sheikh that does African history with Islam, no imam that does African history with Islam ever talks about the victims, never talks about the people that died by the hands of the jihadists, never does that. Read on.
Khan, verse 15.
Khan, yeah, that's it. Page 15, yeah, that's it.
Page 15. Not 14, it's 14 as well.
Oh, 14, yeah, you can get a bit of that as well, yeah.
By contrast, despite of the historical facts.
Despite of the what?
Historical facts.
So say historical facts. Don't believe me. Believe the facts, man. Believe the facts. Arabs that followed Islam had a hand in slavery just like Europeans. And many of them tried to ignore that fact. When they go into North Africa, you see Hamites following Islam. You go into West Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal. They follow Islam, but they ignore the facts. They follow it because why? Because people that was radical enforced it on them by the force of the sword. And they ignore all of those facts. Read on.
That the Arab Islamic dimension of enslavement of blacks predates and postdates Western Christian dimensions.
Oh, so now this author is honest enough to go, listen, what the Arabs did, it pre-exists and even went on longer than so-called enslavement by the Europeans. You know, if you do want to know a fact, Arab slavery happened about 690 AD. So after Muhammad died, the sheikhs and the imams, they went radical. They first conquered Iran, Uzbekistan, the regions around them. And then with those same people, they enforced their religion on. Then they went all throughout West Africa, all throughout North Africa, all throughout Sudan. And he goes, it was before it and even was after it. And it goes, they ignore these facts. Nobody likes to talk about how Islam spread all throughout Africa, spread all throughout Iran, Iraq, you know what I mean, and the Ottoman Empire, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan. Nobody likes to talk about that. And guess what? Sheikhs and imams know about it. But whenever they want to get a black man to join their religion, they ignore it out of history. They don't talk about the side of the victim, the side of those that was oppressed under Islam. Read on.
By centuries.
By what?
By centuries.
Centuries or hundreds of years, man. Hundreds of years by centuries. But any more than that, I don't want to make it redundant, to be fair. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah. Don't want to keep hitting the same subject home. So now they deny the Arabs hand in slavery and the facts, and it's not done by accident. That's why when Captain Mashap was at the speaker's honor, that guy, he's like, that's a lie. And he was all upset because his sheikhs and his imams deny these facts. They don't want to talk about it. When we do camp, and I say openly, you mean people look and they nod their head like, this guy's uneducated. And it's not that I'm uneducated, you're uneducated. That's the problem, man. But let's get Hosea 4 and 6. The problem we have is we don't know what we think we know. There's a black man now who's some imam or some sheikh thinking, you're wrong, man. My sheikh never ever taught me this. And there's a reason why he don't want you to know this, so that you will leave him, man. You will find out you are the Israelites. You're going to find out you're the people that, you are the people of God. And your sheikh don't want that to happen. He wants all your money, man. He wants you to buy his rugs, his man dress, his headwear. And how does he do that? By ignoring what Arab Islam done unto you, man. Read that for me, Hosea 4 and 6.
Hosea 4 and 6. My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge.
And there you go. The people of the Lord, they are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. The knowledge we are meant to have, we don't, man. Black people go, well, you read the Bible, Europeans enslave your people, how can you do it? Well, let me ask you a question. You're following Islam, how can you follow it? They enslaved your people for before and even longer. So how do you follow that, man? You as a black man, how do you have a Quran in your hand and talk about, well, yo, Europeans are evil, man. You're reading their book. Arabs did the same thing. Those same sheikhs those same sheikhs that you love, they know it happened and they would never even let you know it. They would never ever sit down and go, you know what? We apologize for what we did too. They're so evil. They'd rather just not talk about it at all. They're so evil. They would never ever let you know that, you know what, we did it at one point. I'm wrong for that. But then they want you just to join their religion. And read that one more time.
My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge.
And that's us, man. We are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. We are destroyed for not having knowledge, man. Black people fill up the mosque. You mean, by my house, there's a mosque and it's full of black people. And as I walk past, do you know what I think? All of you need to be in the UPK, man.
God.
You're in the wrong army. You're fighting for the Arab cause. If you're a black man in Islam, you're in the wrong army.
God.
You're helping the Arab army, and you shouldn't be, man. They enslave your people, man, and you're just subject unto them. You following Islam is just like you following Seventh-day Adventists, Jehovah's Witness. That's a religion of oppression. So is Islam, man. And we gotta face it. It's no different. Just because they live amongst you don't mean nothing, man. They hate you just like Europeans. But that's it on that. Now, let's get another book. This is called The History of Slavery, written by Suzanne Everett. Yo, this is a history class, right? So this is by Suzanne Everett. So people that say, well, Arabs didn't have a hand in slavery. Well, this book here, it talks about the slavery of the Europeans. Then it talks about the slavery of the Arabs, and it has images and pictures and all of that good stuff too, man. So, you know what I mean? We're gonna get into that. Page 192. Now, with this, it's not to read, it's just to show you. So you don't need to. We can probably read just little ad libs there. But let me get it for you. Huh? Yeah. I got a few still. I got 4 left. Right. So now, in the same book, page 192. Now, I'm going to read to you then. I'm going to show you something. It goes, crushing the last slavers. Why is it saying that? Because Arabs, they enslaved us last. meaning England, they abolished it, and they stopped many people that had slaves in West Africa. And Arabs would fight against them that, you know what I mean, would say that it has to stop. That's why in this book, page 192, it says, crushing the last slavers, meaning the English, they had to stop the Arabs. The English had to fight them to stop enslaving Africans. So once we was on the Western Hemisphere, slavery was still going on to the 1900s. Well, 1960 to be exact. And the English had to fight them. So, I mean, this is what this book goes into. 1 second. So yeah, in this book, this is page 196. I don't know if you can see it in this. I mean, this is just the pictures. You can read about what they did in your own time, but for people to say that Arabs did not enslave black people and they followed Islam, you would be lying to yourself. Now, this image right here is where they carry them across the Sahara. So look now, that's a slave caravan right there. That's what you would call it. Yeah, so that's it. So that's a slave caravan right there. But they will carry you across the Sahara Desert, sell you in Mecca, sell you in Zanzibar, which was another place. You know what I mean? And to even let you know what the image is, because I know someone may be thinking you're making it up. This is what it is, captioned: an Arab slave caravan on its way to the coast. Meaning what? They're going to sell you to the Europeans. What coast? The Gold Coast, man. The coast of Western Africa. And Arabs did this. And they have images right here, man. People saw it and sketched what they saw, man. It's facts. So we need to start lying to ourselves. We need to start denying these things. And Arabs followed Islam and enslaved Israelites and Africans. Reason why Islam is so big in Africa because of jihadists, man. The same way they set a bomb to themselves right now. When Africans didn't want to follow Islam, they made them, man. Waged war against them, captured them, enslaved them, forced them to believe Muhammad is the last messenger, forced them to believe there's no one but Allah. They didn't believe that. Africans had their gods, but they was forced to believe something else. But I'll read on some more in it. This drawing is based on a report of a slave gang. Imagine that. A slave gang, do you know what they did? It was their job to capture slaves. They would go to African towns, villages, and just make war and just round people up for the sole objective to have them as man slaves and rape slaves and all whatever they desired. A slave gang, nothing they're making up. This is history. You can buy this book. It's on Amazon, wherever you want to go. The History of Slavery by Suzanne Everett. Nothing I'm making up, man. But let's get some more. Let's get some more images. All right, this one's nice. So now, this one is captured. The useless property, exhausted slave collapses within sight of a autohold, and the slave trader prepares to deliver to the exhausted slave. Now we're going to see what he delivered to this exhausted slave. Let's find out, man. This is page 198. Watch this. What is he going to deliver to this exhausted slave? Death. The slave can't walk through the Sahara anymore. And what's he going to do? Kill him. You see the Arab there? He's got the gun to this man's head. So because he can't take walking so far, he's going to kill him. And that's the Arab that follows Islam. If you can, to bring it more to camera. I mean, if it's Twab, then there's no need to be fair. Don't have to. But look, he's going to kill that slave simply because he's exhausted and he needs water. So imagine that because you can't make it, you have to die. So what then? If I can't help some Arab, then all I'm for is death. But you know what I mean? That's what they're saying, man. That's what they're saying. Now, with this same image here, there's history that goes along with it. In that same book, The Legacy of Arab Islam, take me to page 145. With this same image now, I'm going to show you this image as the brother reads page 145. So keep this image in mind right here as you read on.
Page 145. Slaves were transported across the Sahara.
So make no mistake, this same image is from the Sahara. So slaves were made to travel across the Sahara. Read.
To slave markets of Tripoli. From the Kano in the modern northern Nigeria, slaves were captured from non-Muslim tribes living to the south of Hausa towns.
Hausa towns. So for those that don't know, with the Hausa tribe, they were converted into the Islam religion, and they would use them along with themselves. They would use them to, to get like the people that did not follow Islam, so that they can have people to sell on their way back. Read on.
Such as the Gweri and the Kitab from other parts of northern Nigeria were acquired, most probably from the 16th century, and taken along the 40-day route to Dongola and Egypt.
So now a slave had to walk a 40-day route. Imagine that, walking for 40 days, man. It takes a few weeks to walk from here to London. Imagine 40 days of walking, man. What you see right here is a man that walked for 40 days, man. Of course, he's exhausted, and when he can't walk no more, what's it gonna do to him? Take his life. But read on.
And also build the Bukhara and the Tibesi through the Kufra. The jihad movement of the 18th and 19th century in the Western Sudan degenerated into well-organized Muslim raids.
So now there was well-organized raids. So remember, Arabs that followed Islam, they had organized raids like, yeah, look, right now, when it's night, we're gonna raid that village. You know what I mean? We got all the chains, all the ropes. We're gonna, you know what I mean, make sure it's done as efficiently as it can be done. Read on.
God. On pagan communities for slaves, meant for local use, and also to supply the trans-Saharan trade route.
Oh, and there you go. So now with some of the slaves that they had, some of them was for their own personal use, and then some was take along the trans-Saharan slave route, meaning they knew on the way back we can also sell some too. Read on the part about them being black and they didn't care about them. That's part of that one. About the skeletons were like all over the roofs.
Many eyewitness accounts talk about sobering terms of loss of life along the route.
Okay, so now many eyewitnesses. So this image here, I know what someone's thinking. You know what I mean? That it's not real. There's many eyewitnesses account along this same route that we are on about. There's people that had eyewitness accounts. There's people that writ what they saw, not what they heard, not what they thought, what they seen, man. Read.
On such account, when eyewitness in 1822 talks about a well near Bersaburu, where the ground around is strewed with human skeletons.
With human skeletons. So meaning slaves like this that could not walk no more, he died and his remains were just left there, man. His skeleton is there right now. And they saw remains of slaves that just couldn't make that 40-day walk. And Arabs that followed Islam, they did this. Arabs that followed Islam, they're responsible for those remains across the Sahara. Read on.
The slaves who have arrived exhausted with thirst and fatigue.
And what did this say? A slave that couldn't make it because he needed a drink. His slave trader, he basically got rid of him. So it's saying the same thing. So this is history. This is facts, man. Read on.
At one spot, there was more than 100 skeletons.
So at one spot, there was more than 100 skeletons, man. Imagine that. In one spot, 100 skeletons of people that just couldn't do a 40-day walk. That's all. You mean to walk 40 days in the hot Sahara? You're going to die. You're not gonna make it, man. But read on.
Gustav Nachigal talked about litter skeletons and half burned in the sand and mummified corpses of some children still covered with blue cotton rags.
With blue cotton rags, meaning that they was young and their mom still had them, man. Their mom had them wrapped up and they couldn't make it and they died. And under Islam, this happened, man. So why doesn't no one talk about this? Why doesn't your sheikh or your imam ever talk about this? And when you mention it, they was not Muslim. They did not read the Quran. Yes, they did. These were Arabs that followed Islam, and they were taking these slaves to Mecca. But everyone ignores this, and history says it. One book says it here, and another one written by a sheikh, he says it too. But read on.
The Arabs laughed.
The Arabs did what?
Laughed.
Ooh, so what? It showed that they didn't care about black life or even African life. Read.
They laughed heartily at my expression of horror and said, they are only black.
They are what?
Only black.
And after reading that, how can a black man follow Islam, man? After reading that, how can a black man say that the Quran is the way of God, man? When these people, that same Quran you read, they read, man. And they, you mean, and when your remains was in the Sahara, they're like, they're only black. Like they're dead, and what does that mean? That's how this Arab can take this man's life here. Because he looked at him and thought, he's only black. He can't make that walk. I'm going to just shoot him in the head, man. And people ignore this, man. People ignore this history. People ignore these facts. What about this, man? And no one would like to talk about it, man. But that's in that. Let's get some more out of this. All right, this is another page, page 200. Slaves and ivory and engraving done in 1889 shows the connection between these two crimes. So the Arabians and the Eastern Africans. So with this image here, when they used to take slaves from the West Coast, some of them, they used to, you know what I mean, do they was in agreement with some of the Africans from the East. Why? Because they was following Islam. So to get them across the Sahara, they would have a resting place to rest before they make the rest of their way back to Arabia. And as you see, the Africans and the Arabs, they're just having a rest. And you see the slaves all like shackled up. So let's can see this one here. And what did it say? A picture speaks 1,000 words, man. So if you don't believe the writing, you know what I mean? These are people that saw eyewitnesses accounts. They sketched this down, man. The smaller one, yeah, that's right. So you see the slaves sitting down, and the Africans and the Arabs, they're just there, you know what I mean, having their rest eating. And that's what Islam did. Arabs under the banner of Islam. So how dare someone say Arabs never enslaved no one? People that follow Islam, they would never enslave no one. When they did, what history are you reading? What books are you reading? Or what don't you want to read? What about that question? What history is there out there that you want to purposely ignore? We need to address that, man. All right, this one's nice. I like this one. This one shuts down any arguments. Watch this. Now, this is entitled A Portrait of Two Arab Slave Dealers. And then the other caption, a slave market in Zanzibar, where the purchasers examined and brought some 300 slaves a day. Arabs under Islam, in their slave markets, they will sell 300 slaves a day, man. Let me show you that. Let me see if there's anything else. All right, let's grab that. So now these are the Arab slave dealers right here. And that's the slave market right there. But they would sell up to 300 slaves every day. And these men read the Quran. These two men here, they know about the hadiths and the surahs. And they still had black people as slaves. They even had Africans as slaves as well. You could get the Arab slave dealers over there as well. Look, that's history. So what are you reading? What are you purposely trying to ignore, man? Arabs sold Israelites and Africans, man. Talking about that's not true. That's a lie that Europeans want to say to that, so that they don't look so bad. What are you talking about? Like, this is history. But here's the problem: they ignore it because they want black people to follow Islam, man. They ignore it so that they get you out the Bible and into the Quran, and that's really what it is all about. But that's it on this book. You can read it in your own time, but that's the point that we're just trying to make right there. All right, give me Isaiah 28 and 9.
Isaiah 28 and 9. Whom shall I teach knowledge?
Oh my bad. It's Isaiah 28 and 9. Also, it might be 29 and 8.
Isaiah 29 and 8. It shall even be as when an hungry man dreameth.
1 second, let me get there. I probably got the wrong verse, which most likely I have. All right, it is Isaiah 29 and 9.
Isaiah 29 and 9. Stay yourselves and wonder, cry ye out and cry.
So now the Lord, he's talking to the nation of Israel, and he's saying, stay and wonder and cry, meaning what the Lord's gonna do to us, you're gonna cry, man. When the Lord's done with the nation of Israel, they're gonna wonder and cry, and that's us, man. In these last days, once you have the truth, you wonder and cry, man. You wonder and cry like, how can a black man have a Quran in his hand, man? How can a black man be talking about Muhammad's the last prophet and all that stuff when under the banner of Islam you was enslaved? When you were sent to the Western Hemisphere, it was Africans that followed Islam that enslaved you, man. And now we're here following it, following sheikhs, ignoring blatant facts, ignoring straight history, man, ignoring concrete evidence, ignoring scholastic information, man. And that's us, man. When you got the truth, you wonder and cry like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Black man talking about, wallahi and all that crap. It's got nothing to do, it's got nothing to even do with you, man. If you're following Islam, you're just a good slave, man. If you're black man in the church, you're just like him. We don't condone none of them. But when you try to downplay one and uplift the other, there's something wrong with that. We gotta talk about that. But read on.
They are drunken, but not with wine.
And that's us. We are drunken, but not with wine, man. We're drunk in the mosque, but not with wine. We're drunk. We are intoxicated with them lies that, Islam is the religion of the black man. The Quran is for black people. The Bible's oppression. We are drunken, but not with wine. You're drunk that you follow a religion and you would blame one religion for what they did and then ignore what the religion you're in did. You would ignore what Islam, the people that follow Islam, and they were Arabs, what they've done unto your people. You ignore it. You are drunken, but not with wine. Read on.
They stagger, but not with strong drink.
So
the Lord hath poured out upon you the spirit of deep sleep.
That's the problem. We are asleep, man. A black man in 2019 saying Arab slavery did not exist. You were in a deep sleep, man. You need an alarm clock and all that, man. You're in a deep sleep. Arabs under Islam enslaved Israelites, man. But you deny it. That's not true. There was some that did it, but they did not follow Islam. Says who? Says who? Who? You mean history shows otherwise? These same Arabs follow Islam. And that's why in Africa today, Islam is the #1 religion. And meanwhile, while they was there, those same places, they oppressed them and done all kind of things onto them. What we done?
And have closed your eyes.
And that's the problem. The Lord has closed our eyes, man. How are you going to ignore what Arabs did? You're a black man with a Quran in your hand, not knowing that they oppressed your people just for way longer. Europeans came in the 1600s. Arabs were enslaving you from 690 AD, man. They pre-exist what the white man did, and they're both wrong. I'm not justifying none of them, but for you to ignore one and then blame the other, your eyes are shut, man. For a black man to have a Quran in his hand, you know what I mean, your eyes are shut, man. For a black man to not read the history of what they did, you died in the Sahara Desert, and what did they say? They're just blacks. Like, well, you know what I mean? Who cares? Read on.
The prophets and your rulers and your seers have been covered.
And they're the prophets and the rulers. Those black sheikhs and imams, they're rulers, man. People go to them for answers. People go to them for advice. And you give them lies, man. Why? Because your eyes are shut. You can't teach nobody if your eyes are shut. You can't tell a black man the Quran's the way. When look at what they did to your people historically. Well, let's drop that. In the Wikipedia, get me Islam's views on slavery. And I'm going to explain something to you. People have to go, well, in the Quran, you know, Muhammad let his go. You want to know a fact? In the Quran, every black character in there, he is a manslave. In fact, every black character in the Quran was a slave. Nothing I'm making up. And again, that's something that people like to ignore. As a black man with a Quran in hand, imagine this. The same book you believe is inspired by God. In that same book, everyone that had skin like you is a slave. How's that uplifting you? How's that liberating you? But in that same book, everyone's a slave. Bilal, slave. The one who used to hold all the bags, slave. Everyone who Muhammad came across, every dark-skinned man, slave. So how does that help you? How can that be the word of God if you're nothing? In that same book, you believe helps you in your everyday life. You're the slave. Meanwhile, in the Bible, no black man's a slave. In the Bible, Isaiah's black, Jeremiah's black, Ezekiel's black, Christ, the most famous man in this book, he's black. This Bible liberates black people, man. No Quran ain't liberating no black man. Or does it make you a slave? It makes you look up to Arabs like their grace. And that same book, well, I'm a slave and Muhammad owned me at one point in time. And that's all it does, man. You got it for me. All right. In that same part, there's a section called slavery in the Quran. That's right here.
Slavery in the Quran. The arms are only for the poor and needy, and those who collect them, and those whose hearts are to be reconciled, and to free the slaves and the debtor, and for the cause of Allah, and for the wayfarer, a duty imposed by Allah. Allah who knows wise.
Okay, so now there's a reason why we've been reading that. If you have a debate with someone, you talk about, well, you know, look at the look what the Arabs done to Africa, enslaved people or whatnot. They'll quote this verse to you out of the Quran and go, no, they're freed. Muhammad freed slaves and all that stuff. So what happened after Muhammad died? They were on a conquest and enslaved many people. So they didn't believe it. Yes, it does say that. But though, did they live by that? No, they didn't. So what happened in Africa, Libya, Nigeria, Ghana, the Congos, Sudan? What happened then? If they was following this, then what happened? But there's a specific part one. If you scroll down, It starts off with slaves are mentioned in 29 verses here.
Slaves are mentioned in 29 verses of the Quran.
Read on.
Most of these men are Medinian and refer to legal status of slaves.
It's like it says also these are Medinian, meaning in the Quran, the Medinian parts, they're more at the back, meaning so in the later parts of the book, 29 slaves, they are mentioned. Read on.
And refer to legal status of slaves.
Yeah, read on.
The legal material of slavery in the Quran is largely restricted to manumission, and sexual relations.
So what does that part mean?
Sex slave.
That's right. So while they're trying to make it seem more nice, you know what I mean? A slave, meaning the women were sex slaves and the man was on a manumission. You know what I mean? He would fight in the armies. He would do what a man slave would do. And people ignore that. That's in the Quran. These are scholars that read the Quran. If you don't believe me, on the same Wikipedia, those little hyphy parts, it even tells you in the Quran which parts to read. So don't think I'm just getting someone that hates the Quran. It's in there. But read on.
According to Sikanga, the Quranic references to slavery as mainly contain broad and general propositions of an ethnical nature.
Of a what?
Ethnical nature.
So what does ethical H mean?
They do slavery by according to race.
There you go. So even in the Quran, slavery was by race. That's why in that same book, when he walked them through the Sahara, what did that Arab guy say? They're only just black. Because slavery to them was about race, about people that don't believe, infidels, the kafir. That's a lie. Slavery was about race, man. In Africa, they enslaved them because they was dark-skinned. They enslaved Israelites because we was black. Slavery is about race to Arabs. So anyone teaching you some lie about, that's not true. I mean, in the eyes of Allah, we are all one. Allah don't see color. That's a lie. Arab slavery was based on race. In the Quran, every slave is black. I'm making this up. Every slave in the Quran is black, whether he's Ethiopian or I say dark skin just to make it nice. They're either Ethiopian, North African, but they were slaves. Read on.
Rather than legal formations.
So rather than legal meaning, you weren't a slave because you was in debt or whatever. It was because of your ethnical background, because you was black, you was dark skinned. So you wasn't a slave because you was in debt. You was the thief, and the punishment was, well, you gotta work for this man for like 6 years, like in the Bible. You know what I mean? You was a slave simply because you was an Arab. And people ignore that. What's that one in the Bible about us being slaves, but it was like we work for each other, like a.
Oh, that benefit debt or.
There you go. A worker. So yes, in the Bible we have that where if someone couldn't pay off a debt, they would work for this man. But according to the Quran, slaves were based on ethnicity. It was a racial thing. So you know what I mean? It's nothing that we make up. 1 second. All right, so let's get into this book. This is a book written by Sylvain A. Diop. It's called The Servants of Allah, African Muslims enslaved in the Americas. Why? Because for those of you that don't know, some slaves that came into the Western Hemisphere, some of them was following Islam. Like some people watch them and go, they're doing like a Arabic kind of thing. Of course, I mean, some follow Islam. Some of us was lost thinking we're African. And some of us knew that we was Israelites too. So even so, amongst us, when we was enslaved, the religions that we had, they was vast and wide. Why? Because we follow everything. Just like today, where black man's in the mosque, in the church. When we was in West Africa, we followed many things too. So this lets you know that about some of us that follow the Islam religion. And you want to know what's funny? We follow Islam, and what happened? They still enslave you the same way. Why? Because you're black. Why? Because as what we read from the Wikipedia, it was about ethnicity. had nothing to do with legal rights or something by law. It was simply if you're not an Arab, then just be a slave. And that's what in the other book we read, when they saw the remains of dead slaves, the laughing go, they're just black. And that's what your sheikh in Arabia thinks. That's what your imam in Arabia thinks, that, well, you're just black. You know what I mean? Who cares about you? You're nothing. But yeah, this is a book called Servants of Allah, right here. We're going to get page 8 first, then the 49th page. 1 second. Yes, I have page 8 to page 9. Let's see. Yeah, so page 8 and just top of page 9. And then we're good to go with it. So now, even this author, he's going to let you know something about it. It didn't matter if you followed Islam. Even if you was African and you followed Islam as well. There's a book I forgot to bring. And it was a fact, many East Africans that used to bring slaves onto Arabia, when like the slave trade got low, those same Arabs, they would even enslave them. So they come with some slaves. When they're like, you know what, it's not even enough, they would even just round up that. They would even just round up that. They would even just round up them as well. But that's in a book I forgot to bring, which I should have, and it has some good information in there too. But yeah, let's get that page 8.
Page 8. Islam in Africa had a definite influence on governance and administration of justice and the institution of slavery.
And the what?
Institution of slavery.
Oh, so they, you know, Islam also held slavery in Africa. Because I'm gonna give you a bit of history. Even before Islam, Africans did practice slavery as well, but their slavery wasn't like how Arabians did it under the banner of the Islamic faith. Theirs was, if they had a war with you and you lost, then you would be their slaves. You would just work for them. So yes, Africa did, you know what I mean, they did have that before Islam, but once Islam came, they made it radical. Now it's not about if you lose a war. They just want to raid your town and just enslave all of you for riches. They're like, you know what? They don't follow this. Okay, and at night, we're going to just raid them. We're going to set their houses alight, round up those who survive, and they're going on that walk. So once Islam came, it changed the whole dimension of slavery in Africa. Read on.
The Muslims who were enslaved in America, like their non-Muslim neighbors, were familiar with slavery.
Yeah, so now they were familiar with it, like I said, but theirs was more based on war. If you lose, then you know you gotta be my slave. That's how they operated. So they was familiar with it, but they, you know what I mean. But once the Arabs came and they wanted to get rich, they changed the whole game. Read on.
Some had already been slaves, while others had been slaveholders.
Yeah, read on.
And those who were neither had nevertheless experienced life in slave societies.
Yeah, read on.
African slavery did not follow one model. The institution varied according to region, people, time, religion. There were, however, similarities among the different African systems.
So now, before even the whole Islam came to Africa, they did like enslave people that they beat in wars, and let you know that they handled it in many different ways. Read on.
And huge differences with American slavery, whereas kidnapping and straight purchase were the methods by which Africans and Americans and Europeans acquired their African slaves. Wars were the principal source of captives in West Africa.
So in West Africa, the culture they had was wars, and who lost those wars? You would be their man slave or their woman slave or whatever the case may be. Read on.
Besides war captives, in non-Muslim states, criminals were enslaved as sometimes were debtors who first born themselves members of their family.
My bad. I probably went too far down. On page 9, the top part about the Muslims and the non-alike, something like that. They were both enslaved.
Like they're non-Muslim neighbors, free and slavery.
That might be, yeah. I probably missed the part I want to bring out.
The Muslims who were enslaved in America, like their non-Muslim neighbors.
There, so now, even us, we followed the Islamic religion in West Africa. Not all of us, and we was enslaved same way. So it had nothing to do with religion and those who believed or not. From as long as you was black, or from as long as you was not an Arab, then you know what I mean. They thought, well, it's right to enslave this individual right here. Any more on that? That's and that. I know sweat. So let me get another book. This is called The African Slave Trade. And of course, I mean, we're not African, but you know, obviously, in the world, that's what you're taught to believe. Written by Azul Davidson. Let me get the 49th page out. I'll grab that for you. One second. 49. And now, what I'm reading here is just showing you how wicked these Arabs are. Because some people go, well, you know what I mean? They didn't, you know what I mean? Like, these people, they didn't really believe in Muhammad or whatnot. But they enslaved everybody, showing how selfish and how evil they was. The highlighted parts of page 49.
Page 49. The new license was for the transport of 38 and 250,000 slaves.
I heard be done.
38,250 slaves. Lakia Gomez Reno, who brought this license, was to deliver his captives over a period of 9 years at the rate of 4,250 a year.
So now imagine that they're enslaving people that much. They even got like a 9-year plan. Like, okay, every year you bring this much. And then at the end of 9 years, you'll have how much? 38 grand plus 38 odd.
4,250.
So now every year, that's how much slaves they had to bring, man. So now these Arabians under Islam, they was enslaving that much. It got so bad they had to like literally bring a certain amount every year. And all of a sudden, we don't know history. Arabs under Islam didn't do nothing. When like, come on, so you're telling me all these historians are wrong, and you're just right because you feel that, you know, Arabs under Islam just wouldn't do that. In the Quran, it says free all the slaves. And guess what? It does say that, but his thing, history shows otherwise. History shows that they had a big hand in the enslavement of many nations. Just so the Quran said one thing, but did they live by it? Did they do it? No, they didn't. Read on.
It was stipulated at least 3,500 a year must be landed alive. Reno had to pay nearly $1 million ducats for this concession, and agreed to forfeit 10 ducats for every slave, short of 3,500 a year.
Yeah, read on.
The captives were to be fresh from Guinea coast and were to include no mulattoes, no mestizos, no Turks, no Moors.
There, so now at this time, this one here, he only wanted people from West Africa, so from like Guinea, Ghana. So it didn't want no one else, no Moors. The Moors were Africans that was following the Islamic faith. So it's like, so with the agreement that he had with like the guy that he used to sell his to, that was the agreement that they had. Read on.
They would have included many Negro Muslims, of course.
Who?
Many Negro Muslims, of course.
But I thought under that religion we're all the same, man.
Many Negro Muslims, of course.
Islam's one, brother.
Many Negro Muslims, of course.
So that means even if you followed that faith, they will still round you up. With this man, it was mandatory that he brought a certain amount of slaves every year, and because of that quota that he had to fill, if you follow Islam or not, you had to go, man. You done your prayers. You had the rug, and that didn't matter. You had to go and be a slave. So that shows you that Islam is racial. People are like, it's not. In the eyes of Allah, we are all one. When history shows otherwise, the facts prove otherwise. So many other slaves, they followed Islam. Read on.
But nobody in Spain would have known this, and perhaps nobody would much have cared.
So now the point he's making is the people that they were gonna sell the slave to, they wouldn't have cared. But basically, he's saying that, listen, you gotta make sure we get 4,000 slaves every year. You know what I mean? Because we are making money and we don't want it to even go down. So out of desperation, even slaves that followed Islam, people that they came across that followed the same religion as them, they didn't care. They still rounded them up and enslaved them because they had a barter fulfillment. They had a certain amount of slaves that they had to get. Any more than that pretty much it. Sweet. Let's get Jeremiah 6 and 16.
Jeremiah 6 and 16. Thus saith the Lord, stand ye in the ways and see.
All right, so now, with the Lord here, he's telling us, stand in the way and see. Meaning what? Look around. Forget what someone says about, but in the Quran, it says, free the slaves, stand in the way and see, meaning look around, read history, observe, read.
And ask for the old paths.
What did the Bible say?
And ask for the old paths.
And ask for the old path. Meaning, as you stand around and see, you're going to understand that all this is a lie, man. Islam is a lie, man. I'll stand in the way and see. And look what they even do to us right now, man. They call you a color, a shidi, which is all racist terms for black. Meanwhile, the Quran, there's no color, there's no racism. So why are you so fascinated with my race for, man? Why is it every offensive term you use has to have, someone who's dark in it, someone who's black? So that's a lie. While you're taught one thing, reality, while you standing in the way, you see something else. And that's what the Lord let us know. Stand in the way and see. Don't believe no shake about Arabs didn't enslave no one. We don't do slavery. We don't do slavery. In the Quran, Muhammad freed the slaves. Yeah, but what happened after Muhammad died? They slaved people through sub-Saharan Africa, slaved people from East Africa, West Africa, Iran, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Turkey. So what are we talking about? Do you know facts? Even the whole Count Dracula thing, what's his name? Vlad the Impaler. Why did he have the war against the Ottoman Turks? Does anyone know? Anyone online? Why did Vlad the Impaler have to fight the Ottoman Turks? Since Islam's all about peace, you mean Vlad the Impaler, who people know as Count Dracula, why did he even have the wars that he had? Does anyone online even know? What's that guy saying there? Kenneth Walker, like G. Keith Walker. Also read Barbary enslavement of people. The enslavers were Jews, and yes, that is true. Some Jews that got up there, they did enslave people, but Also, in other books, we didn't do it like how the Arabians did, like how the white men did. They just work for us, like like it is in the Bible. So yes, nice try, but that's not. I don't know how you're presenting it, but that's not. If you are presenting like we are just as bad as them, then that's not the case. So you know what I mean. Yes, he was the king of Romania or Wallachia in Romania. That was his empire. But why was he having the wars that he was having? For time's sake, I'll answer for you. Because they were trying to force Islam upon him and his people. That's why Vlad the Impaler, aka Count Dracula, had to fight against the Ottoman Empire because they were trying to enslave his people and make him follow Islam. And that's something they don't never like to talk about. Everyone talks about Romania, man, Vlad the Impaler, and he's an evil man. But why was he doing what he was doing? Because they were trying to force Islam upon his people. And of course, he followed Christianity. So he of course, wasn't having this. And that's true. So he's that Olav Telemundo. That is true. To get out of slavery, the Ottoman Empire, which was Iranians that followed the Islamic faith, you know what I mean? He was subject unto them for some amount of time. And after one point, he's like, no, your people must follow Islam. That's why the people of Bulgaria, you know what I mean? They was enslaved under Islam, and then his empire was next. And that's why he had wars against them. So if Islam is such a peaceful religion, then why did Vlad have to you know what I mean, defend his town for? If Islam was such a peaceful and nice religion, then what happened in Africa, man? What happened in West Africa? What happened in Iran and Uzbekistan and the region of Kazakhstan? If Islam is such this peaceful religion, read that for him again, Jeremiah 6:16.
Thus saith the Lord, stand ye in the ways and see and ask for the old paths.
And that's what you gotta do, man. If you're a black man, if you're a Hispanic man, if you're a native Indian man, just ask for the old path, man. Forget new Islam, new Christianity, new Jehovah's Witness. There's an old path, man. And in that old path, you're gonna find the Lord, man. In that old path, you're gonna find your answers. You ain't gonna find your answers in Islam, the same religion that enslaved your people and tried to even deny it, man. You mean you ask Sheikh? So I've been reading some history, and Arabs, they also enslaved us. No. That's a lie, bro. That's a lie, bro. You know what I mean? No, they did do it, but they deny it. A lot of them are ignorant of their history. They don't talk about the victims of it. They talk about Islam, man. Muhammad went to, not Muhammad, with the sheikhs. They went to Africa and they, spoke to them. That's a lie. They wage jihad on them in Africa. They wage jihad on them in Iran, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan. Which is war. If you can get it out of Wikipedia. So some people may think I'm making up. What does jihad even mean, man? We did read in the book about how Africa experienced the jihadists. So what does that even mean?
He had a struggle or fight against the enemies of Islam.
There you go. That's what jihad is. A fight against the enemies of Islam. Meaning, I'll make it easier for you. If you don't follow Islam, then you are the enemy. If you don't want to accept Muhammad as the last messenger of God, then you are their enemy. And that's something that people like to ignore, man. You know what I mean? So in Africa, if they wasn't following Islam, you was the enemy, and they became jihadists against you, man. When they went to West Africa, of course, they didn't follow Islam. They had bones in their nose, you know what I mean, those rings around their neck. You ain't following Islam. You was their enemy. When they went to Uzbekistan and they were worshipping whatever they did, they were seen as their enemies. When they went to Iran, Afghanistan, all the regions, they were seen as enemies, man. And that's what jihadist is. So Islam did not spread by, them hearing about Muhammad. Islam was spread by the sword, man. Follow it or die. Read.
Standing in the ways and ask for the old path, where is the good way?
Where is the good way? Islam ain't the good way, just like Christianity. None of these religions ain't the so-called good way. All it does is make you confused. All it ever does is make you more lost to where you think, you know, well, for me to find God, I gotta worship a people that ain't mine. I got to suffer, you mean, being called black ghost, black dog, and I gotta read a book where every black man in there is a slave. Ain't nothing good about that. How's that empowering a black man? That's why, what's that other religion? Not regular Islam, the Asian of Islam. They blow my mind. They do. How are you gonna teach Islam is the black man's religion when in that same Quran every black man's a slave? Everyone that was of a darker skin, they're a slave. So what are you talking about? And that's the problem. It's not the good way. The old path, that's the good way, man. It don't matter what you want to make up, what you think's right. It's not the good way, man. And that's the problem. We've been following lies for too long, man. You got black people that don't even know that Arabs enslaved you and made you follow Islam. Arabs conquered North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, some of West Africa under Islam. And those same war captives, they took back to Mecca as slaves, which we're going to get to in a bit. Read on.
And walk therein.
And walk therein. Read on.
And ye shall find rest for your souls.
What did the Bible say?
And ye shall find rest for your souls.
And if you find that good way, black man, you're going to find rest for your souls. What's that good way? The UPK, man. That's the good way. And believe me, I've been in religion. I've been to church and ain't no rest in there. You join the church and you have more questions than answers. You know what I mean? You're a black man in the mosque. You got more questions than answers, man. How are you going to read a book thinking it's inspired by God and it's against you? Every person that's dark skinned is a manslave. History, Arabs enslaved black people. And when they saw their dead remains and the writer was shot, they laughed like, what? Like, why are you shot, man? They're only black. Like, come on, man. You know what I mean? They're nobody. And Arabs feel about you that way even to this day. So you know what I mean? You're not getting answers. If anything, that's leaving you with more questions than an answer. But read on.
But they said, we will not walk therein.
And that's the problem, man. The UPK, we're on them streets every week, and you don't want to listen, man. You don't want to walk therein. You don't want to listen to thus saith the Lord. You don't want to submit yourself to the ordinances of the Lord. And that's the problem. You don't want to listen to the history. Know what the Quran says. You don't want to listen to the history, the blatant facts of what Arab Islam done to Israelites and Africans. You don't want to listen to that. You want to accept a lie. But the Quran says, free the slaves. In Surah so-and-so, Muhammad said, you know, you're going to free all the slaves. Slavery ain't going to exist no more. And Bilal sang the prayers on the wall. Yeah, but history, facts. What happened after Muhammad died? Let's see who can answer online. From the history we just read, what happened after Muhammad died, man? It's facts. Forget what the Quran says. What happened? I don't need a reference. I need what happened, man. And that's key, like, to say that, I'm not trying to divert, but to say that, you know me, Islam is the way of peace. Vlad the Impaler was fighting people that followed Islam. And they want him to follow Islam and, like, take all the women and the men as, like, sex slaves. And, you know what I mean, like, the young boys to basically learn their art of war. So how can Islam be peace when he was fighting against an Islamic empire? It doesn't make no sense. So the question is, yes, the Quran says free slaves, but what happened? Forget about, you know, yeah, but that's what the Quran says. People that followed Islam, Arabs, despite what the Quran said, what happened?
So it got worse.
That's right. It got worse. So now in their religious book, they're taught, you know what I mean? Yeah, free the slaves, but it got worse. They were on a slave rampage all throughout Africa, all throughout some of the Middle East and all that. So it got worse. So they don't believe in that, man. They don't believe in no Quran. You know what I mean? Look what happened. His followers left him and they went on worse. So after Muhammad died, you know, other imams and other sheikhs, they tried to convert the whole world into Islam. You know what I mean? But let's get back to that book, The Legacy of Arab Islam. Page 103 first. You know what I mean? It's sad that, you know, a lot of Israelites don't know this, man. They purposely, well, not purposely, they're Arab sheikhs, the imams. They know what they're doing. They don't talk about this history. They're rather, you know what I mean, just blame it on white people. Like, look at that, man. And you want to read the Bible. But likewise, I got to scrutinize you the same way, man. You want me to drop a Bible down. So why should I read your book then when you enslaved people longer and even after and before? Read that from page 103.
The jihad campaign therefore engaged violence and antipathy in non-Muslim areas.
There's now the jihadists, which a jihad is someone that, you know what I mean, if you don't follow Islam, you are their enemy. So they looked at all people that did not follow Islam as enemies, man. And it was a movement, meaning amongst Arabs, it was the norm. Like, nah, anyone that don't follow this, we're going to make war against them, man. They went to North Africa, Central Africa, went down to West Africa. And of course, nobody was following that, you know what I mean? So everyone was the enemy. Read on.
Muslim areas, and in some cases became stumbling blocks to the conversation of indigenous people. Among the vast majority of the people groups of the middle belt of Nigeria, there emerged and still exists a strong anti-Hausa and Fulani. All
right. So now, you know what I mean, in your own time, you can research it. In with the Hausa tribe, they follow the Islamic religion. Now, with the other tribes, you know what I mean, they follow African religion and whatnot. So now, the Hausa tribe, which are Africans, they used to work for the Arabs in enslaving Africans in the Nigeria. So they would be used to, you know what I mean, go and like do slave raids. So now, because of what they did in that country today, many people hate the Hausa tribe. But read on.
An anti-Islam feeling because of the memories of Muslim slave traders.
So now, in that country, even to this day, many people hate Islam. So what some other tribes, the Igbo tribe and them tribes, they hate Islam. In the Nigeria, they hate Islam and they hate the Hausa tribe. Why? Because they tried to enslave them under Islam for the Arabs. So how can Islam be a way of peace when they was fine with this? Arabs like, yes, you know what I mean, you follow us. Well, you know what I mean, you need to go and get them, man. I want to sell them in East Africa. I want to sell them on the islands of Zanzibar and what's the other one? Madagascar. That's where slaves were sold. And you mean, and under Islam, this was fine. They didn't see it as, nah, that's bad. And in that country today, many people have a hate towards Islam. Read on.
Activities in the area among the Languda, for instance, so strong is the feeling that fellow Languda who are Muslim are scorned because Islam is seen as a mark of a decent slave.
Oh, there you go. So how can Islam be about peace when even Hamites, stinking Africans, even they know, nah, I'm not following Islam. You follow Islam, you got the mark of a slave right there. Nigerians, they got the decency to know, no, I'm not following Islam. The only people that do are the Hausa tribe. Outside of that, no other Nigerian, I wouldn't say race, but like a family or like a tribe, they don't follow Islam. Even they know all what they did to us. I can't follow that, man. They will not follow it because they know all the hell what they went through under the banner of Islam. They know what they went through under so-called Islam and Muhammad, man. And that's why they don't follow it. And they see it as, if you follow Islam in that country right there, you have the mark of a slave right there. But read on.
They would say, I am not a slave, that I should do the salat.
The salat. That's a prayer in it, a salat.
Sure.
It's a prayer. But even amongst them, they know, I'm not doing that. We showed you that. How can Islam be about all love and peace? When they hate Islam, they're like, no, I'm never doing that. After what they done to us, they tried to, you know what I mean, enslave us. And in your own time, it's a bit of history. But with the Igbo tribe, they actually won against them. When the Arabs used to try and take them, they used to win all the wars. So that's why they know all the hell they went through to fight, to not be a man-slave under Islam. That's why they hate them even till this day. But get me page 146.
Page 146. Conservative estimates suggest that about 11 and 14 million Africans were transported into Muslim lands.
So now, here's the part that people don't like to talk about. First, they'll say, well, you know, the Arab slavery, it never happened, or it's not like how people think. Then, if you get them on that, they go, well, those people, they were infidels. They did not read the Quran. They were just Arabs that, you know, they were just in the world, if you want to say that. But now this part, it squashes all of that. These were took to what? Read the part again, the Muslim lands.
11 and 14 million Africans were transported into Muslim lands.
Into Muslim land, meaning people that followed Islam. So the slaves they had, they were taken to lands where Islam was the religion. So that's a lie. You know what I mean? They tried to jump around. First, it never happened. You show it does. Well, those were infidels. They didn't read the Quran. They were just people that, you know, they wasn't real people that followed the Islamic faith. But no, these slaves were taken to places where Islam was the religion. Islam was what they practiced. Islam was what these people did, man. Read on.
Outside tropical Africa, over the past 14 centuries.
14 centuries, do you know what it means? 1,400 years. So from 690 AD up until 1960, man. 1,000. No, that's not. How long? 100 years. So 1,600 years, man. Had people in slavery, man. But read on.
That many folk believe that the reason for being enslaved, according to the holy laws, is merely that a man should be black in color.
Oh, what did it say?
That a man should be black in color.
So where did we just read that? So in the Wikipedia, that scholar that done his observation on the Quran, what did he say? Slavery was about ethnicity, meaning race. So this guy's saying, even amongst them, though they practiced Islam, a slave had to be black in color. So meaning it wasn't about, you know, you follow Islam, I follow Islam, we are one. If you was black, you was a slave. Even if you followed Islam, which you read in other books too, that many people that follow Islam, they were still rounded up and sold into slavery as well. Read on.
And come from those regions, the holy city of Islam, Mecca.
So Mecca, famous Mecca, the Kaaba stone. You mean a place where everyone that follows Islam must do Hajj, meaning you must go there once in your life. this famous place. Let's find out something about it. Read on.
The holy city of Mecca became the center of the slave trade.
What happened with Mecca?
The center of the slave trade.
So Mecca was the center of the slave trade. Imagine that. And you're telling me your imams and your sheikhs that love Islam, research it so much, don't know this. They do, but they don't want you to know it, black man. They want you in London following Islam and not really telling you the truth about Arab Islam, not telling you the truth about what they did, man. That simply you being black was good enough for you to be a slave. And Mecca, the so-called holy city, that was the center of slavery. Read on.
In the world.
In where?
In the world.
In the world. So forget about England and Jamaica and America. Mecca was the biggest slave trade place in the world. Meaning, what happened in Mecca ain't happened all over the world, man. People been enslaved all over the world. But what happened in Mecca was the biggest slave trade all over the world, man. Sold more than Europeans. Read on.
And remained so well into the 20th century.
Remained so into when?
20th century.
Into the 1900s, 20th century. So meaning they were still doing it even in the 1900s. And that's long. And you're telling me a sheikh don't know this. An imam that, you know, research is the Quran. What do they call it? I do Islamic research. You just don't know this. So you research Islam and ignore this. You know me. I've been researching Islam for 30 years, man. You believe me? Arabs did not do it. Yes, they did. Here's the thing. You don't want to acknowledge what Arabs did. You don't want to accept what Arabs that followed Islam did, man. Read on.
From the slaves captured and brought to East Africa and the Sudan were distributed to all parts of Arabia and the Muslim world. And the Muslim world, meaning people that follow Islam. So it wasn't just people that did not believe. They were sold to people that practiced Islam. All the countries where people, you know what I mean, they would do their Hajj and Salah and all that. They were sold there. So you know what I mean? So no one can lie to you. No one can pull the wool over your eyes talking about, well, you know, under Islam, we don't do slavery. When that's a lot. Read on. It became a custom for pilgrims to take their slaves for sale in Mecca. So imagine that you're doing your journey to go into Mecca, and it was normal to take slaves along with you, man. So any slaveholder that lived in North Africa, along his journey, it was normal for him to take slaves with him to Mecca. So along his journey, like, yeah, I'm gonna take some slaves that I can sell along the way, you know what I mean, make some money. To hell with Islam, man. No black man should be following Islam, talking about yourself peace. What does it say? Islam means submission to God. Listen, I don't care what it means. Look at the facts. Look at the history. Look at what happened. Not what you've been taught happened. Look at what happened, man. And you're gonna notice they are just as bad as Christians, man. They're just as bad as Europeans. Read on. Or is it on that? It became okay. No, you don't split. Or buy one or two slaves while on Hajj. There, so even on your Hajj, it was normal to even buy some slaves. So you mean you've done your Hajj, like, you know what, I could use them to, you mean, mop my floors and do this and like basically do that. It was normal. How dare someone go, that's a lie. Arabs did not enslave black people. Yes, they did, man. And we got the history, we got the facts. Here's the problem. They look down on black people so much. They think you won't research it. They think, you know what I mean, you're too lazy to even look at it, man. All they want to do is get high. I mean, I tell them, in Africa, Arabs and Africans, they get on fine, which is a lie. You know what I mean? And that's what they do to you. They lie to you, man. They come in and go, listen, man, you need to get out the Bible. You know what I mean? Allah loves you, man. Meanwhile, they ignore what they did. Read on. As souvenirs to be kept. As what? Souvenirs to be kept. So what does that mean? If you wanted to prove that, you know, you done your Hajj,
You would even buy a black or African man slave as like a souvenir. Like, you see, I did do Hajj, and on the way back, look what I got. I got a man slave too, man. Read on. Or is it on that?
Or sold as gifts.
Or sold as gifts. Imagine that. They look at people that have a darker skin as nothing. You're to be sold as gifts. You're to be sold as nothing, man. And we need to start lying to ourselves. We need to start, you know what I mean, trying to put the blinders on. This is what Islam is about, man. It's about Arabs, and they're going to rule the earth in their book, not you, man. If you're a black man following Islam, it's not about you. It's about them. And every slave was black. And you were simply a slave because you had dark skin. And these are things we need to stop denying, man. Anytime I see a black man in a man dress, I feel sick, you know. Anytime I see a black man with a Quran in his hand, it makes me upset, man. Not knowing that same book you uphold is degrading you, man. That same book you uphold is saying you're nothing. And history, Arabs, even to this day, think black people are nothing. You got dark skin. You are nobody, man. Read on.
Or gifts, high-ranking Muslims who performed the pilgrims are known to have always taken large contingent of slaves as porters and guards to tend to their master's needs.
There, so even on their way, they will have slaves along with them to even tend onto their needs. All right, you got questions as well? All right, let's grab that.
First Peter 4:1.
Oh, that is it's 1:14.
No, it's 4:14. 4:14 for Lakia. If ye be reproached for the name of Christ, happy are ye.
All right, so now he's letting his disciples know and the men under him. If someone hates you because of Christ, happy are you? Meaning someone hates you because you won't eat pork, you won't, do something that the Lord hates. If someone hates you for Christ, happy are you? Meaning be happy. Don't be sad. Be like, you know what? They hate me, but I'm doing something right. They hate me because I'm serving the Lord. Then be happy about that. Don't be sad. Reason why is many people, they get sad when people hate them because they're doing what's right. Like, everyone hates, man. I'm not eating that bacon sandwich. I'm not at this, I'm not, I'm not getting high. You mean every time they hand the weed onto me, I'm like, no, I don't smoke. And some people, they get sad, while as people should hate you because you want to serve Christ. Happy are ye. Read on.
For the spirit of glory and of God resteth upon you.
And then be happy. Do you know why you're happy? Because the spirit of God is upon you. That's why you don't get high, because the spirit of God is upon you. You won't celebrate Kwanzaa, Christmas, Easter, because the spirit of God is upon you. And be happy. Know that what's upon you is the reason why they hate you. They don't hate you because just you. They hate you because the spirit of God resteth upon you. Read on.
On their part, he is evil spoken of.
So on their part, meaning when they speak against you, they're speaking against the Lord. It's not just carnally, they're just offending you. They're dissing the Lord. Do you want to know why? Because you're doing what the Lord said you should do. So they're not speaking bad against you. They're speaking bad against the Lord. So on their part, he's evilly spoken of. Read on.
God. But on your part, he is glorified.
But when you live how you're meant to live, God is glorified. I mean, the Lord looks at you like, yeah, you're doing what I want you to do. So on their part, it's bad, but for you, it's good, man. Read the next verse just to finish that off.
But let none of you suffer as a murderer.
So remember now, it said, if they hate you for Christ, happy are ye. But now he's giving you the flip side. But let none offer as a murderer, meaning don't let people hate you because you are a murderer. You took someone's life unjustly. You didn't defend yourself. Read on.
Or as a thief.
Or as a thief. Don't let no one hate you because you're a thief. Let them hate you because the Spirit of the Lord rests upon you, man. Let them hate you for that. But don't let them hate you because you're a murderer. You're a thief. Read.
Or as an evildoer.
Or as an evildoer, meaning you do anything that the Lord said you should not do. Read on.
Or a busybody.
In other men's matters. You know,
other men's matters.
So saying that. So now, let people hate you because you're doing what's right, not what's wrong. So that's the point that he's making, basically. If you understand that, just type in a con, and we're good to go. All right, we're up on the time. I had one more page out of the book, but it's pretty much going the same thing about how the Mecca was, the place where slavery was thriving, and they followed Islam. They done their Hajj, meaning they followed the religion of Islam. So you know what I mean. With that, I'm handing over to priest and officer of 5,000, Karafia.
On the powerful class, the brother behind powerful class. In an I.S.U.P.K security announcement, with the I.S.U.P.K started at 1 West under Commander Gen.YAHANNA, rule for a new brother and sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves off the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will call each other. After this 6 month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment, Numbers 18:21, Malachi 3:10, means 10 for the Hebrew Ma'ashra, 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. Give to the treasury department or the teacher. Priesthood, not mandatory. Whatsoever about your life. Upcoming holy convocations, the Passover, April 20th, Woodhaven Bank this week, Jamaica, Queens, New York. All active, check the bulletin board in the hallway. And check all I.S.U.P.K social media. If anyone wants to be true to the school, start wearing all black, blue shirt, pants, headband, and headscarf. And with that, Assalamu and the Lord's Prayer. Abanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Hayah, Shankar, Yahweh, Balak of God, Daba'ah, Ratazaka, Hayah, I.S.U.P.K, Baratazah, Kawah, Hayah, Shemayim, the Fallen, the Kam, Cow, Yawam, Wasalak Noah, Kabawaf Noah, Kasalak Noah, Kabawaf Noah, Wala'ah, I know wanna say one. Abba. Hawashai Noah. Mayan. Right. Kaya. Lakar. Hamalakwa. Waha'ala. Wahafapara. I will love you. Amen. And in English, our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. In earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. So be it. And the prayer for the power, the Hakam, Yahweh, Hashem Yahushai, the Thunder Noah, Haka, Lara Pa'ar, Kal Makalak, Haka, Latahar, Hamad Tazarayim, Haka, Lahaqiyam, Amafiyam, Haka, Arukawat, Atama Allah, the Garashan, Hashem Yahushai, Aman. And in the English,
Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh,
in the name of Yahweh,
please give us the power.
Please give us the
power to heal,
all
manner of sickness, and all manner of disease, the power to cleanse the lepers, the power to raise the dead, the power against unclean spirits, to cast them out, in the name of Yahweh. Thank you. So be it.
And the blessings, Barakatah Yahweh, Wa Yahweh Shai, Wa Yaka'ala, Wa Alahayim, Bataz Abiyah, Ala Wap Yohanna, Ha Ala Wapyam, Ha Saranium, Ha Patazayanium, Ha Kaliyalium, Wa Akwapyam, Yahweh, Wa Hashem Yahweh, Wa
Aman, and in the English, bless you Yahweh, and Yahweh, and Michael, and the angels, commanding General Yahanna, the generals, the captains, the officers, the troopers, and the sisters, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh, thank you, so be it.
And the curses, blessed are you Yahweh, King of heaven and earth, and all things living, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh, listen to us now, right now, to evils and curses, and punishment and destruction, and death to the heathen, that speak against us, thy prophets, the teachers, the princes, the priests, the Israelite brothers, and the schools, said evils and curses, and punishments and destruction, and death to the heathen, and shake loose the pocket, of the rich of Israel, that refuse to give to the school, force their riches, to enter into thy sanctuary, said evils and curses, and punishments and destruction, and death to the Edomites, and their nations, and their drug dealers, the court system, the prison system, Planned Parenthood, all the governments of our enemies, Amalek synagogues and armies, the Pope, Islam, Christianity, Egyptology, militia, Ku Klux Klan, Aryan Nation, skinheads, Posse Comitazi, the gay movement, the lesbian movement, spies, workers of witchcraft, NASA space programs, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Wall Street, open up the internet, and the airways, the cable access channels, and the radio channels, convict the spirit of any of thy people that seek to stop us, and brings with death to all the heathen that stand in the way, or try to stop us from broadcasting your words throughout the planet Earth. Let loose all the terrorists, call them to go to and fro through the earth and destroy, call the terrorists to come against America and the UK, and destroy them in their strongholds, let America shake, let the UK shake at the hands of the terrorists. Let Yahweh shine, Michael and Gabriel come down with the flying saucers, and kill all the heathen that come up against us, as we speak thy word, cause it to be known by all, that it is the angels that have done it, that have done it, Cause it to be spread through the media.
Cause it to be spread through the media.
Throughout the whole world.
Throughout the whole world.
Cause them to shake at thy coming.
Cause them to shake at thy coming.
In the name of Yahweh.
In the name of Yahweh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So be it.
So be it.
And the blessed Israel, Yahweh.
Yahweh.
Ba'ashem Yahweh.
Ba'ashem Yahweh.
Barakanawa.
Barakanawa.
Wayasha'ala.
Wayasha'ala.
Wahabayah.
Wahabayah.
Sapaya.
Sapaya.
Barakapah.
Barakapah.
Magan Hagan.
And the Gordon family.
Gordon family.
Bennett family.
The Bennett family.
The George family.
The George family.
That's it.
Ba'ashem Yahweh.
Ba'ashem Yahweh.
Wada Aman.
Wada Aman.
And what we said was, Lord, in the name of Jesus, bless us and Israel and school. Bless your shield, protect our loved ones. In the name of Yahweh, thank you. And so be it. With that, Israel will give one question to the teacher. Men of Israel, I Madam Shabbat. I Madam Barak. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai Barakatah.
Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai Barakatah.
Yad Shamata. Class dismissed.